Actually, that's a pretty old Oberle joke. It's probably time to retire it.
Rochelle, listen to you.
Look, I'm going around here, if you see this, I can see you.
Not much to see. The saying comes in a variety of forms, and I think it's Woody Allen who's really popular. I said I don't think it originated with him, but he certainly made it popular. But essentially, it states that one of the key things in life is just showing up. Now, at the risk of sounding presumptuous, which has never stopped me before, it might be wise to add the key to life is showing up, and might I add as well, showing up at the right time. I remember many years ago, I was a budding actor in a school play, until, of course, one of the assistant directors, it's amazing, it's a lifetime ago, but I remember it was Allison Lawrence. I will never forgive her. She sent me out on the stage at the wrong time. Everyone was on page 5, but I was speaking lines from page 6. How shall I sum up the experience? I've been in therapy ever since. Surely one of the keys to life, to living with purpose and impact, is showing up at the right time. Matthew writes, and then Jesus arrived at the Jordan from Galilee and came to John to be baptized by him. In my mind, I imagine this conversation, not recorded anywhere in the Gospels, but in my own mind. But I don't think it's much of a stretch. In my mind, I see 2 old shepherds standing on a famous hill. The days of wielding shepherd crooks with authority and skill are long, long past. The years of long, cold nights with little sleep and hot, dry days have exacted a toll. And the one says to the other, whenever I stand here, I recall with a vividness that night so many years ago. You remember that night when the sky just burst into light and life? The message about the little boy in the hay. I sometimes wonder whatever happened to him. I'm almost tempted to say that we should go, you and me, see if we can find him, find out whatever happened to him. And the other shepherd, heretofore silent, with the trace of a smile, his eyes filled with wonder, remembering that night, turns to his old friend and says, I have not forgotten. And I don't think we should go look for it. Deep in the marrow of my bones, something tells me he'll find us. And the searching and the finding begins one day, we are told, in Jesus' 30th year. We don't know if it was a Monday or if it was a Thursday. We don't know if it was in the morning or the afternoon or in the early evening, but Fred Craddock writes, one day you can be certain that this happened. For the very last time in his life, Jesus folded his carpenter's apron. It was shaking the shavings from it. He put it on the bench. He left the shop. He went to the house. He told his mother Mary and his brothers and his sisters goodbye. He walked out the door, and he made his way down the road, across the fields, down the valley of Jezreel, and he came to the river. Matthew tells us John tried to stop him. John said to him, you should be baptizing me. Are you going to come to me to be baptized? And Jesus said to him, this is how it needs to be right now. They're often referred to as the silent years. Just think, it was 2 weeks ago, right, that Jesus was a baby with a price on his head, and today he stands at the edge of the Jordan River. Of course, the question is always, what of all those intervening years? What happens? Matthew ends, right, with the family returning and going all the way back to Nazareth. Luke ends with Jesus in the temple, befuddling and confounding the religion scholars at the age of 12, and then nothing. The lost years. There's a woman who, given to speculation, says she's absolutely convinced that young Jesus traveled the ancient Orient, sucking up and soaking up the wisdom of Hindu sages and the Buddha. I think she's had too much to drink. And what I say to that, and I think her name was Elizabeth Clare Prophet, that's a good name, I say baloney. If I wasn't in church, I might say something else. Really? Nobody's ever said those words before. I'm sorry. Should go back and confess my sins. Now Jesus of Nazareth, son of Joseph and Mary, is a Jew. From the crown of his head to the tips of his dusty toes, the Torah in his heart, the words of Isaiah on the tip of his tongue. And what of those intervening years? How about this? How about dutiful, devoted, loving son of Mary? How about a good big brother? How about proud proprietor of Joseph and Sons Construction Company? How about that? How about faithful child of Israel who never misses a Sabbath inside the walls of the synagogue, even if it is a little icy out? For whom God is not some distant apathetic power, like, as I mentioned last week, for some of our founding fathers, not the conclusion of a philosopher's proof, but a vibrant, living, personal, faithful reality at the very heart of life itself. And Jesus said to him, this is how it has to be right now. Stepping into the warm, shallow waters of the Jordan, Jesus begins that process of finding and searching. You remember the shepherd said, something tells me he'll find us. Jesus steps out from behind the curtain onto the stage, from the obscurity of silent years to the very center of history. And the world has never been the same. This is the right way, Jesus said, for us to complete God's whole saving plan. So down into the river, a river, I might add, that is no mighty Mississippi, that isn't even, frankly, the Clinton River spillway. A thin river of brown, muddy water that snakes its way through countryside. If, I suspect, had it not been for Jesus, most of us would have never heard of. Nevertheless, a man without spot or blemish, now suddenly up to his neck and over his head in the water with people who have never been washed like this their whole lives. It's a funny thing I heard somebody say the other day. Powerful people, the movers and the shakers of the world, royalty, this is not true, expend a lot of money and a lot of effort to get away from people like you and me. And here is Jesus with us, beside us. Seems like we heard this just a few weeks ago, I think on Christmas Eve. And in coming up out of the water, the Spirit by which he was conceived falls upon him with fresh power, so that now that Jesus can do what Israel could never do, and that is to lay, as someone has written, holy healing hands upon a mad, broken world to set things right. And along with the Spirit there was a voice, this is my Son, chosen and marked by my love, the very delight of my whole life. Some people get it dreadfully wrong, like Elizabeth Clare Prophet, thinking that what this means is that this moment that somehow now Jesus becomes the Son of God, adopted as it will. But Christmas, you remember, doesn't say that. It means that he was the Son of God even in all those years of quiet obedience and all those years of obscurity, even from the long walk from the region of Galilee all the way to the edge of the river. And John said, I ought to be baptized by you. But John wasn't baptized by Jesus. And yet you have. Not in the Jordan, not in some world-famous spot that people pay lots of money to make pilgrimage to, but you have been baptized. And whether it was a river or a lake, whether you were dunked or you were poured or sprinkled, a lot of fighting over those. Whether you were sprinkled with genuine certified St. Mark tap water, those waters were transformative because he was there. And as that water was poured over you, that same Spirit was breathed into you so that you and I can walk with him and continue to lay holy, healing hands on a wild, broken world. Amen.